Thanks for sticking with us here on The Real Story. We're continuing to cover the fast approaching 2023 primary, and now people are getting creative to engage voters and get excited about the election. Joining me now to talk about it is Zella, Connecticut's ambassador for Drag Out the Vote. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Emma. It's so exciting to be here.
Of course, we're so excited to have you. So start off, tell me a little bit about how you got into Connecticut's drag scene and now advocacy scene.
Yeah. So I was a theater major in college. I went to Skidmore College, go Thoroughbreds. And I was in a play, and I was cast as a drag queen, and I had never had any experience with drag before. And so I dove into that, and I was like, oh, this is super cool and like freeing. And I started watching Drag Race. And I was like, oh, this is something that's really exciting and speaks to me, and I think I could do it. So I put a pin in that, graduated, started getting involved in community theater here in Connecticut, and then the pandemic happened. And I got in touch with Connecticut's very own Amethyst of Drag Race fame on Facebook because we had some theater mutual friends. And I said, oh, you do drag, that's awesome. I've been thinking about doing that at some point. And she sort of started, got me started figuring out like, once the world starts opening up again, how can I really, hit the ground running? And so I started off with the competition that Shea S in Hartford has for drag, and I've just been going ever since.
Wonderful.
And so as far as advocacy, I went to a liberal arts college, so like social justice and all that has been very important to me. And I saw some New York girls that I follow on Instagram are part of this organization called Drag Out the Vote. And they put out a call for drag ambassadors, and I said, hey, these are two of my favorite things, social justice and drag, let's combine them.
Right.
So I applied, and here I am.
Yes. So you're, as you just said, Connecticut's official ambassador for Drag Out the Vote. When you're talking to people about getting involved, especially here in local elections, what are you hearing from them right now?
I hear a lot of, oh, sure, I'm registered to vote, but I don't always go out, or, oh, we're a blue state, things are pretty good here. And for the most part, I agree. We're very lucky to be in a blue state where a lot of, protections are in place for minority groups. But I remind them that anything can happen in politics. I bring up the Roe versus Wade getting overturned in 2022, and how I have some drag friends that are in Massachusetts and Boston, and they have had Nazis protesting outside of their drag story hour events. So it really can happen anywhere. Things can change so quickly. In my hometown of Glastonbury, we have a lawsuit going on. It's in the Connecticut court system now, but it's 3 girls that are suing because they didn't want a trans girl on the track team. Right. So it's happening in our own backyard, and it's scary stuff. So it can absolutely happen here.
You brought up a lot of things that have been going on.
There's so much going on in this country.
Besides the transgender athletes that we've seen happening here in Connecticut, we've also seen book bans here in the state of Connecticut, and we've seen a lot happening in other states across the country as well. I think we saw in some of the past elections, and maybe this upcoming one, a lot of sort of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation that really drove a lot of people to the polls. As you said, Connecticut's always been a fairly blue state, but it can happen, anywhere. What's sort of your message to those who might say, well, I'm comfortable in a state like Connecticut, it's a fairly blue state, I don't really feel the need to turn out? Do you have sort of any counter for people who say that?
I would say, like you said, there's been so many anti-LGBTQ laws. Just as of June this year only, there's been over 540 anti-LGBTQ laws being proposed. And that's a record, and it's scary. And if it's happening in other states, it can happen here. And so I think, no matter where you are in the country, it's important that your voice is heard. Because especially with young people, like the values of this country are changing, and it's important that the next generation's voice is heard. So as soon as you hit 18, get registered to vote, get out there, and show our representatives and legislators that these are the values that we hold dear and want protected and everything.
And what do you think are some of the major issues, not just in the queer community, but for young people as a whole? What are you hearing, and what do you want to see from those running in these elections?
Climate change is the big one for me. It's horrifying seeing all the, wildfires in Hawaii and California and Canada. The world's literally on fire, and it's horrifying. So I want to see really strong, climate bills being passed to protect our planet, because it's the only one we've got. And I'd like to stay here for a while. So climate change is huge. Women's rights and all the anti-abortion stuff, healthcare, student loans,
So with such a massive, political pushback for a lot of these things nationwide, how important do you feel it is that not just those in the queer community, but also allies show up to the polls for not only, as we were talking about with the Secretary of 2024 presidential race, but obviously just in a week we have a local election. So how important is it that people show up for those local elections?
I would say local elections are just as important, if not more important than presidential elections, because this is really where the little things happen in our own community, and these are the people that can later go on to run for president and hold higher office. So it's important that we show those politicians what we value, and praise them for the good things, and push back against the bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you wish people in Connecticut knew about the queer community here?
Oh gosh. We have a really strong, thriving drag scene, and I think it's important that we foster that. We have a lot of great opportunities here in Connecticut for drag artists, and I think it's important we take care of the community. I think a lot of the pushback against drag artists has just been kind of a misunderstanding of what drag even is.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't know, not for any malicious reason, but just it's not something that's on their radar. Okay. And so for me, and I don't want to speak for the entire drag community worldwide, but I think for a lot of my friends and people in my community, it's just a way to express ourselves and make art and entertain. It's like playing dress up, So for me personally, it's a way I can make theater. Like I said, I'm a theater artist, so I get to do, a one-woman show every time I hit the stage, and I'm in total control of everything. I get to combine theater and music and dance and all these things that I love, and celebrate all the parts of myself that I've had to hide, growing up. I get to celebrate, all the feminine aspects of myself, and hopefully inspire people in the audience and help them feel that they can love themselves more.
And for those who are interested in learning more about Drag Out the Vote, or are interested in getting involved, what should they know? Where should they go? What do you want to tell them?
You can reach out to me on Instagram. It's @thequeenzella. I would say, find your local queens and kings and artists. Drag is such a wide art medium. There's not one right way to do it. So there's all sorts of different types of performers and styles. So go out to your local bar. Find a brunch if you want to go to. Any way you can sort of get exposed to the community, and just talk to these people. We're just regular people like you and the people at home. We want to be loved and live our best life.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Emma.
Of course. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Great to talk with you, too.
So that does it for us on The Real Story here. But if you want to watch these segments again, you can head to fox61.com or download the Fox 61 News app and watch The Real Story every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox 61 and streaming on Fox 61 Plus. Have a great rest of your morning.